Bluebell is a member of the hyacinth family, which is one of those families where the parts of the flower are in multiples of 3. Sepals in the usual sense are absent and the leaves are sword-like in form. Bluebell, or wild hyacinth, is a bumblebee flower, as are several other upside down blue or purple flowers, but honeybees have learned to rob the flower by landing on top of the bell and inserting their tongue between the segments of the corolla and sucking out the juices. And even though the flowers certainly are bell-like in appearance, the 6 tepals are actually separate, but they're so tightly overlapping that it looks as if they're joined together, but they're actually joined only at the base of the flower. Bluebell is very characteristically pendulous. You have a bend at the top of the main stalk, and the little individual stalklets of the bells are also pendulous. But after fertilization, they will straighten out so that the ripe seeds in the open bell of the corolla can be catapulted out by raindrops. And even though it's the blueness of the flowers in May that are eye-catching and that take our breath away, what's happening underground is just as important and equally interesting. Here is the overwintering bulb, or what is left of it at this time of the year, when most of its reserves have been used up to produce the flower spike and leaves. And you see these little buds in the axils of the leaves. Each of these can grow into an independent plant, and this is how it can take over an entire wood in time. But it does take time, which is why sites like this are often an indication of long-established woodland. And you see these stumpy roots, quite different from the fibrous roots of, say, a grass plant or a cabbage. Invisible to the naked eye, there is an entire community of different fungi at work in and around these, sharing such products of their chemical wizardry as phosphorus with the plant in exchange for a share of the carbohydrate the plant is able to provide them with. Bluebell, or wild hyacinth, is the only member of its family that grows in Ireland, at least in the wild. It's a plant of woodlands. The hyacinth of gardens is a different species native to southwestern Europe. It's a more robust plant. The flowers are not so one-sided, and the leaves are much wider. And beautiful as it is, this Spanish bluebell is a cause of some conservation concern because it hybridizes with bluebell. Indeed, most of the hyacinths in gardens are probably fertile hybrids. The English name bluebell needs no explanation, but there's quite a story behind the scientific Latin name, which is Hyacinthoides non-scripta. Now, hyacinth, of course, is a boy's name, but in Greek mythology, the original hyacinth was a young man beloved both by Apollo and Zephyrus, the god of the west wind. And Zephyrus became jealous because of the amount of time that Apollo and Hyacinth were spending together. So one day, when the two were playing at quoits, now I better explain, quoits was a game where you threw a metal ring at an upright peg in the ground. The object of the game was to get the ring over the peg. So they were playing at quoits, and Zephyrus, with his west wind breath, caused the quoit to veer so that it struck Hyacinth on the head and killed him. And where he fell, our flower grew up. However, the scientific name for bluebell, remember, is not hyacinthus, but hyacinthoides, which means looking like the hyacinth. Because the hyacinth that grew up where the young man fell was a different species, on the petals of which seemed to be engraved the 2 Greek letters AI, I, which is a cry of lamentation for the fallen hyacinth. And those letters are not present on bluebell. In other words, non-scripta, not present. So that the scientific name for bluebell, Hyacinthoides non-scripta, means the flower that looks like the true hyacinth but doesn't have the writing on it.